Hey guys, Melody Schumann here. We're going live. I'm going to be interviewing Kelly Murray Grys, and I'm going to try to invite her on real quick, and then we'll get started. There she is. Hey,
Hello.
how's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Wonderful. How do you pronounce your last name now? Is it Grys?
Grys.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure that I got it right. Well, it's good to see you. You look
too.
like you're all snuggled up there in Colorado.
I am. I'm actually outside. Take a look at this view over here. I don't know if you can see the mountains.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm just snuggled up because it's a little chilly. We're in Durango, Colorado, and it's like maybe 50 degrees right now. So it's not too bad, but it's like, cold enough that you need to be bundled.
Wow. Well, I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida, and we're gonna have a cold snap, and I'm just gonna show you real fast my backyard. It's gonna get over to, I don't know if you can see, it's so sunshiny.
Yeah, mine too.
Love on the water, but it's
wow.
gonna get up. It's gonna get down to 90 degrees here today.
Wow, 93. That sounds terrible.
Yeah. So it's great to be on opposite sides of the country, but also being able to talk to you. So good morning, everybody. If you just joined us, lots of great people on there. So Rocky said hello. Let's just dive right into it. I have been looking forward to this conversation since you and I talked on the phone last Monday. And I'm just really excited about your passion and your energy and what you bring, not just to the industry, but just to our communities. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce myself, and we'll dive right into the questions that we already had pre-scripted and get started.
Awesome. Well, my name's Kelly Murray. My new last name is Grys. Recently married, and I am a leadership and confidence coach. I'm a martial artist at heart. That's where I learned pretty much how to be the person I am today. I know we're going to talk a little bit about that and just how amazing martial arts has been in terms of shaping, where I'm at today. But, my parents are martial artists, so I was indoctrinated very, very young, probably around when Van started. Same thing. It was like, it was just no question. That's where I was. I was always at the dojo, and I grew up in that culture, and I started teaching when I was about 15. And I really just fell in love with, obviously teaching the martial arts, but also helping people with the business aspect of running a martial arts school. So I think a lot of times, even though we have this passion for something, it doesn't necessarily translate into the business acumen that we want it to.
Sure.
So I started really getting involved in the business side of things, running my dad's karate schools, and then eventually moved to New York City to pursue a performing career. Unfortunately, everybody moved to New York City to pursue a performing career. So I wasn't the only one with that plan. And it's a very, competitive industry. So to make money while I was in New York, I just started working at CrossFit gyms and as a personal trainer, bits here and there, where I found I Love Kickboxing was actually just a part-time gig for a while. It eventually turned into something a lot bigger, and ended up being a business consultant for hundreds of martial arts schools around the country, and obviously the director of franchise training there. And then now I'm just turning that passion into something that's a bit more personal for me, which is really helping people develop the confidence to live the life of their dreams, whether that's in a business sense or just in a personal, private sense. So just helping them develop the confidence that I think has helped me achieve the things that I've achieved, which is really a life of freedom. And I'm sitting here, in Colorado. I'm on a 5-month road trip with my son and my amazing husband. And I work from my laptop now, and I'm doing what I love, and I'm exploring the country. I'm about to go to Costa Rica and find a permanent home there. And so I would just love for people to be able to live whatever their passion is. So that's what I'm geared up for, is to help them make that happen. So now
it's amazing. So, really quickly, just on that, you and I have been friends now for, 4 or 5 years. And we were having dinner while my wife was pregnant. We were having dinner. We were just talking about our dreams. And you said at dinner that your dream was to have a retreat like being in Costa Rica. So to see it come to fruition, not only just the fact that it's coming to fruition, but it's coming to fruition so quickly. is just inspiring. And, you know, and to be able to coach other people on how to reach that level, we all need coaches. We all need not just our significant other and our friends, but if we have somebody who spends their time learning how to help others reach their potential, there's a lot of value into that a lot of people still haven't figured out. But now we're in this new culture where we can travel the world with our laptop and do what we want. So it does enable us all this kind of freedom. So great to have you here.
That's not everybody's dream, you know. Everybody has a different dream. Everybody has a different passion. And I know that you're passionate about so much. And I'm like, you're like my parental mentor, because I follow you on Facebook, and I just, every picture I see of you and that beautiful child is like pure joy. I mean, that boy is so blessed. And I know that you put a lot of thought and effort into raising him. So I can't wait to talk about that. But tell us a little bit about your background, because I was telling my husband your Disney background, and I can't wait to hear your full story. So let's hear it.
Well, you know, I'll keep it quick because I want to dive into questions, but I'm a prodigy of martial arts as well. I started in martial arts in New Orleans in 1987 when I was 11 years old, but it wasn't because my family was in it like you. Mine was actually the opposite story, where I was getting in trouble, misbehaving, and my parents were like, dragged me into a martial arts school to teach me how to learn discipline, and I hated it at first. It was not something that I enjoyed. I was the only female girl in my class. That was very challenging. And it wasn't until, and I love to tell the story, but you know, my mother used to sit in the back while I was taking class and like, try harder, kick higher, sit still, all these things, always just like, you know, that parent. And it wasn't until I started sparring in this class bullying, I remember vividly the exact experience where he sparred my brother and hurt my brother, kind of beat him up pretty bad. And it was round robin, so it was my turn to get in. And he was older than me, 2 years older. And he kicked me in the stomach really hard. And that was a turning point for me. I fell to the ground, and I could have stayed there, and I could have cried and got attention, and then maybe convinced my mom that I was done with martial arts because it was, you know, I was getting physically abused, you know. And I just stood up, and I was so upset at this bully because I had been bullied all my life. That's one of the reasons why I got in trouble, is because kids would pick on me for my size, right? I'm 5 foot nothing, 100 pounds, soaking wet with my pajamas on. So anyway, so I pop up and I kicked him in the head as hard as I could and whacked him. And of course, I looked over at my mom and I was like, uh-oh, my mother's gonna yell at me for kicking this boy in the head really hard. I look over at her. She's in the benches, and she jumps up and goes, yeah! And I was like, wait a minute. I get to kick boys in the head, and not only am I not getting in trouble for it, but my mom's cheering for me. This is the coolest sport ever, because up until then, she hadn't really been proud of me. So moving forward, I was in martial arts until high school. We moved to Florida, and martial arts wasn't very cool back then like it is now. You know, you got Tyler Weaver, Mackenzie Emery, you know, they're making martial arts really sexy.
Absolutely.
But, you know, back in the 90s when I was in high school, it wasn't as cool. We were, you know, the dorks were in martial arts is what my friends used to say. So my parents let me quit. And it's interesting because you mentioned that I worked at Disney. I was getting in trouble in the principal's office, and Disney was hiring. Well, this was where I went to high school in Orlando. They're hiring for food and beverage. And I joked around while I was in the office getting in trouble and said, why would it be Mickey? And the lady was like, well, you're short enough, which was kind of funny. But she asked me if I had acting experience, and I said, no, I don't. She's like, yeah, no, Disney doesn't hire just for anybody. But I mentioned that I was a black belt in martial arts, and she thought it was really cool. So I got a private audition, and I got the part. Probably shouldn't be saying that I do this on social media, but I worked at Disney for 2.5 years, and I learned a lot about entertainment. And it just so happened that I got back into martial arts when I was 19 years old, because I was doing some choreography with the Mickey Mouse Club, and they wanted me to do some martial arts related stuff, and I was a little rusty. So long story short, I ended up teaching a class at my martial arts school. Sorry, my dog's right here licking my feet. Okay. I ended up teaching a class at the martial arts school, and I brought some of that entertainment that I got from Disney into my martial arts class. And it was exciting, and the kids loved it. And my martial arts instructor was like, you're on to something. And that's where my passion for children's martial arts really started coming into play. So fast forward, I started writing children's martial arts curriculums. I started writing these teaching theories on how martial arts can be applied to child development. And now I own a consulting company called SKILLZ, and we provide consulting for children's martial arts curriculums. We also license age-specific curriculums. We have over 850 subscribers to our company that go from a free level all the way up through our gold level. And I love it very much, but I'm not done yet. I want to extend beyond just the martial arts and utilize my experience as a martial arts instructor working with children and parallel it into parenting, because I've worked with kids of all shapes and sizes. And as a martial arts instructor, we're not just martial arts instructors in the dojo. We have parents come to us and they're like, hey, my kid doesn't listen. They look up to you. Will you please help me get my child to listen at home, do their homework, and all these things? So we became therapists, right, Kelly? We had to provide this feedback, not just with the parent, but with the child. And in all of those experiences with parents coming up to me, I started researching and trying to really understand child development so that I can give these parents thoughtful feedback at home. And I just wrote this workbook called Parent SKILLZ. I just did my 2.0 presentation in Rhode Island last week. And it's amazing how every single parent wants to be a better parent, but they don't know where to start. They don't know, what books to read, because there's conflicting opinions out there. I'm a little bit older than you. I came from the generation where they were still spanking at school. And
I was
spanked. It was a very heavy hand. And then the generation became the
like
opposite. Yeah, well, parents became helicopter parents. And if their kid got a bad grade, instead of the parent looking on the kid and saying, what's wrong with your grades, they were going to the teachers. And it generated a society or generation of entitlement, right? So I want to try to get back into that middle part. So that's where we are right now. So with that said,
wow.
Let's dive in.
To say about just your intro. Like, I have so many parallels to my life and so many things that, like your story about getting hit in the stomach. I have the same story. Only for me, it took place in Japan, and I was at a world champion, and I hated to spar. I was terrible at it. I was great at forms and weapons, but I just hated getting hit in the stomach. It hurt. And I was like, at that point, I was like 15, but all my life, I'm like, why did my parents allow me to repeatedly get the wind knocked out of me and think that that's okay? I'm a little girl. And like you, I was the only girl growing up. There was not a lot of females. But long story short, that was a turning point for me. I was at a world competition, this probably about your height. So I figured I had her, right? I was a kicker. And I was like, oh, I got this, no problem. And she wailed on me for 5 minutes straight because there was no, pause until it was 5 minutes was over. And I got up after that day. I think my dad, who's watching, remembers. And I was like, that's it. I am never losing again. And I went back and I changed my mindset and I started to take it more seriously. But it's just so funny how, the things that you talk about in terms of parenting, I relate that a lot to even just managing a business. So for you and your sort of path has brought you really close to the parenting side because you studied child development and you're really interested in helping parents do that job better. There's so many similarities to helping a manager or a CEO be a better leader for their team. It's like so connected, and that's obviously what I do. So I just think that we have so much to talk about. I'm so excited to just dig in and share all of our experience and knowledge. And I know that SKILLZ has been extremely successful for you, and I know that everybody who has used it or has adopted it in their location has amazing things to say about it. So well, one of the things that we wanted to kind of bring up was how we feel martial arts has shaped us as adults. And being that we were both predominantly like a very small minority as little girls or as females in the art, like, what do you think that has done for you now as an adult female, and how has that shaped you?
Well, when I saw you bring up this question, because we were messaging back and forth, I put a lot of thought into this. And it's interesting because we didn't coordinate this Facebook Live gathering with the Me Too movement and all this equality stuff that's going on. I know there was a National Blackout Day yesterday that I got tagged in, and we were like, should we even do this? Because there's kind of a blackout thing, but it's interesting because I believe that because when I grew up in the martial arts, I was treated the same. Like, I failed my first black belt testing because I couldn't break the board, and it was the same kind of board that boys had to break. I was treated exactly the same, fought boys, trained side by side, the same expectations as boys. And when I say boys, I mean men as well. You know, martial arts was written for the young male adult in the military to teach them how to protect themselves. So growing up as a female in the martial arts industry, you and I were both treated equally. So as an adult, I never felt that that equality was something I had to fight for. I just fought. I fought for building skills. I didn't think, oh, because I'm a female, I'm going to try to play that card. I just went out and did the best that I could. So I had this better mindset. And unfortunately, because we shifted into a generation of entitlement, I think a lot of young females were raised in this mindset that because they're female, they should be treated differently. They should be a little bit more lenient. And I think that makes them a lot weaker and more vulnerable. And that's why so many women are getting harassed in the workplace, and so many women fall prey to these people who take advantage of them because they believe that that's how it should be. So again, being a female in the martial arts world growing up, I'm not going to play victim to anybody. And you know me, I speak up. I get it because I speak up, but I don't care.
It's so funny when you said you were a rebel when you were younger, and that's why you got put. I thought, wow, Melody, she was a rebel when she was younger. Imagine that. Not much has changed.
Well, if there's anything that I could say to a female watching is try to get rid of that mindset that you need to be treated differently. And that's where it starts with, is you can't be vulnerable to labels and to you know, what you are, the fact that you're a female. And if you were raised with this mindset, you're going to accomplish a lot more. And I do listen to people go, well, you know, I'm a female and I'm starting a business in marketing and it's very male dominated. What kind of advice can you give me? And I say, drop the word female and just go for it. You know, that's the best advice I can give for just like a one sentence feedback. But I'm sure you can.
It's almost like a lens that you've had that has really filtered out any kind of doubt for yourself, and therefore you teach other people not to doubt you either, because you're looking at life through the same lens that a male is. Like, it doesn't even kind of come up for you. And I think that that's very important, because as a female, if you have that limitation on yourself, then other people are going to adopt the same mindset for you.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, again, how has it shaped you as an adult? I'm sure you feel the exact same way as me.
Oh, well, absolutely. I think that's an amazing point. It's not one that I had thought of, but yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, and it's funny because it's like you don't think of yourself as separate when you grow up in the martial arts, because you are doing the same, you're being put through the same torture as everybody else. You know, when I first started in martial arts, we didn't have air conditioning in the summer and heat in the winter, and we had hardwood floors. And like I said, I was a little girl getting hit in the solar plex, and that might seem, or might have seemed, a very odd or peculiar, you know, activity to partake in as a young person. Why, you know, would we let our young female or our little girls do push-ups on their knuckles on the heart? It might hurt their little hands, or, you know, so that might be a mindset that people, maybe not now, but maybe had when I was growing up. So for me, it's about resilience and about grit, and about teaching myself to get up after I fall, and that, you know, getting hit in the stomach or the solar plex, no matter how many times that happens, you have to get back up and you have to keep fighting. So I think for me, it's been really important as a mental fortitude type thing. And even just the physical endurance part that has shaped the mental endurance. And I think, you know, martial arts is a tough art or sport, if you want to look at it that way, physically. So, you know, just seeing myself succeed physically was a huge component of being able to see myself succeed in other areas of my life and knowing that I could do it. And you mentioned something earlier about Disney hiring you purely based on the fact that you had a black belt. That was also true for me growing up. The fact that I had that on my resume, so to speak, was powerful for other people to see. Like, she set a goal, she achieved it, and every step along the way that's involved in reaching something as, you know, kind of significant as a black belt, shows you the type of character someone has. It shows you the type of person that they will be in other areas. So that was also very powerful for me, was knowing I could set a goal and achieve it, because that was a big one. And I made my black belt when I was 9 or something. But it was a very difficult process because, like you, I hated it. I hated every moment of it. And now, how old am I? 36. So 20 somewhat years later, I'm so thankful to my parents for making me do that, and for putting me in that position to build the physical and mental endurance and fortitude that I need to overcome anything. So that for me is what stood out the most.
So great points. Grit and resilience. I wrote those down. I like to take notes because I like to go back and see how I can integrate them into my life. Now, you know, the next question, this segues right into the next question on how did it influence your parenting approach. So, you know, the problem with us growing up in the Dungeon Dojo days, though, is that a lot of girls didn't make it to black belt. A lot of girls barely made it past yellow belt mid-level. And the reason why is because it was so difficult. So, I mean, I know I was an anomaly. I consider myself an anomaly. I was hardwired with something very special, and I know that it's a gift, and I'm not trying to sound egotistical, but I just know that, you know, the minute I started kicking boys in the head and loving it, people were on my side. They're like, oh, this little girl with this fire in her. So we made it. But unfortunately, a lot of girls really didn't make it that far. Not even just girls, but boys alike. You know, the ratio of kids that made it to black belt in our time was very low because it was so hard and so difficult. And when I ended up opening up my own school here in St. Petersburg, Florida, on Martial Arts in 2005, I knew that something had to change in our industry because the toxic shaming that so many students experienced and led them out of martial arts. It was very retroactive. Those types of things need to be reworked. And your next question was, you know, how has that affected your parenting approach? And the best thought or theory I can think of is, since you're a manager, you're probably familiar with Douglas McGregor. He was a psychiatrist in leadership for businesses, and he said that bosses have one of two theory mindset, or somewhere in between the spectrum of theory X and the theory Y. And theory X, basically, mindset boss was employees don't like to work. They need to be threatened and coerced and held accountable when they make mistakes. But there's this new type of leadership emerging. And this was in the 60s when he wrote this. He said the new type of leader believes that employees will love their job and they'll embrace it if you provide them with a culture and foster a community that inspires them. And I figured that carried over to martial arts as well when I was, particularly with teaching kids. You know, we came from knuckle push-ups when you and I messed up. And it was, you show up 5 minutes late to class, it's 10 push-ups go in class. And that was embarrassing. And it was like shaming you in front of the rest of the class constantly. And Dr. Daniel Siegel in No Drama Discipline says that a lot of people suffer from that. It's called toxic shaming, where kids are humiliated by their parents and their teachers. And that was me. My mother waited for me to make a mistake, and then she would embarrass me, humiliate me, and shame me in front of everybody around me. And it made me have a lot of anxiety, and it made me very insecure. As strong-minded as I am, I still fight these battles inside my own head. That's one reason why I'm constantly trying to find mentors and coaches and people like you to inspire me to keep myself strong-minded. So it's influenced my parenting approach and my teaching approach, because I believe that kids, and I've proven it, that kids love discipline, and they will do what you ask them to do if you deliver it in the right way. So sorry, my dog.
It's okay.
So, you know, if you do it in the right way, so, you know, to give you an example, as far as like in martial arts, we'll deploy a teaching strategy called healthy competition, where we'll say, okay, who can do the most jumping jacks in the next, 2 minutes, this side or this side? And they use each other to try as hard as they can. It's healthy competition. And I also apply that to my parent approach with my son. So, my son's 3 years old. So to get the average 3-year-old to go excited, run into the bathroom, grab his toothbrush and brush his teeth with enthusiasm is very rare. But my son does it every single night. And all it was me deploying that theory Y strategy versus theory X. Theory X is, Van, if you don't go brush your teeth, you go to right to bed, no story time, or take your iPad away tomorrow. That's the coercion and the threatening and so forth, what we were used to in martial arts. Theory Y mindset is, all right, Van, you and I are going to race to the bathroom. Let's see who can brush your teeth the best and for the longest. And he loves it. He always beats me. Strangest thing. He always wins. He sits there and brushes until his toothbrush turns red, because he has a light that shows how long he needs to brush. So being a martial arts instructor in that sense has also helped me become a better parent, because I've learned how to deploy these teaching strategies that inspire children to try hard in class, and also inspire my child to be the best version of himself at home. And I think that that's really cool, the way the martial arts industry is going. Not just the industry, but teachers are going, and even parenting now. Because again, like I said, we went from the threatening, punishing, spanking, paddling kids to the opposite end of helicoptering and entitlement parenting. They're meeting in the middle is this theory of teach them how to be disciplined, teach them how to be confident and secure, but deploy strategies that challenge them and make them stronger. Don't just do things for them. I think the other label that we hear today is the, is this bothering you, the squeaking?
No.
Okay, good.
I have a 10-month-old.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was loud or not. The other label that we're seeing today with parents is called the lawnmower parent, where the parent just does everything for their kid. So say their kid calls and says, hey mom, I forgot my homework on the counter. The mom grabs the homework, notices he missed 2 problems, does it for him, and rushes it to the school for him. Then they're doing it for them. They're not teaching them how to be independent on their own.
Yeah.
So being a martial artist and being able to see both sides of the spectrum and try to find solutions to this in a way that's very productive, that's been my biggest influence.
I agree. I think it just in being an observer of parents and seeing the way people parent their child as sort of a third party. And I'm a new parent, so I'm only 10 months in, and I don't have a lot to share in my experience as a parent, because Ryder's only now becoming a little human that I can really, I mean, he's always been a very aware baby. So people will comment like, oh, wow, there's a spark in his eyes, and you can kind of see he's very present, very aware, very happy. But in terms of like, we don't need to discipline at this point. And I mean, there's none of that yet. But as an observer of other parents and really trying to figure out the type of parent I want to be, I agree that it's very important to have that balance, because I see both extremes, and I wonder how I will be able to balance those two things, and also how my husband will approach those issues as they come up, because I do believe discipline was a very powerful tool in my life that without, I wouldn't have been able to, live the life that I'm living. And so if my parents didn't have sort of a tough love approach with me when it came to my grades, or it came to, doing things well and showing, like my dad always was a big stickler on just your character, like what you wear, how you wear. It says a lot about who you are, and how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So that sort of approach to my life has come from the discipline of martial arts. And also, I see the opposite, where, people have zero discipline with their children and let them run amok. And you can see, like you said, children like that. They want that boundary. They want that limit, because it teaches them how to do things on their own. So one time Ryder was just a little guy, and he's crawling around, and of course he's always getting into trouble. He's always finding something he's not supposed to be in. And there's always that like, okay, well, we want to let him explore, because if he messes up, then it's going to teach him those boundaries. It's going to teach him those limits. And as a parent, you get nervous. You don't want them to hurt themselves. You don't want them to fall down. But you have to let them experience those bumps and bruises along the way, whether they're physical bumps and bruises or just metaphors for the challenges that we face in life. And I think that can be difficult for parents to let go and just say, hey, if they fall down and bump their head, it's gonna teach them that maybe climbing underneath the stool is not the best path to get to the other room. So I mean, I'm like I said, I'm a new parent, I'm a rookie, and I have a very young baby who doesn't really need discipline at the moment. But I do think about it often, about how I will respond, and I'm glad that I have people like you to model. I mean, if you're watching and you're a parent, you need to go and become friends with Melody and follow, because the posts that she has on her relationship with Van are they're just a visual image of what she's talking about right now. I mean, the creativity that she puts into her parenting, and it reminds me a lot of my husband. Is very similar in terms of his playtime with Ryder. Just so creative. And I think that's important too. And as a karate teacher, you learn how to be creative with your lessons, because you have an attention span of very little. And so you're like, what's the most creative thing I can do to get my end result? And I think that's a big issue for parents too, is just the quality of time they spend with their children is distracted time. It's not well thought out how can I really make this special? How can I make this a moment of connection?
Yeah.
How can I create an opportunity? And
it's not easy.
Your credit.
Yeah, it's not easy though, it's hard to be creative. You know, Jordan Peterson. Are you familiar with who Jordan Peterson is?
No.
He wrote 12 Rules of Life, An Antidote to Chaos. He's a phenomenal thinker, and he just did a video that went viral. I'll make sure I share it with you. That talks about how children don't, instead of preventing children from suffering, teach children how to be strong. You know, we live in a society where things are hard, and it is chaotic, and it is stressful. So instead of trying to shelter children from that chaos, teach them how to rise and be strong amongst the chaos.
Yeah.
And that, you know, goes into the theory of what's your why. You know, like Simon Sinek says, when you run a business, figure out what your why is. For skills, the why is to help children become better versions of themselves, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. And we use martial arts as that vehicle. That is our why. Some people's why may be to teach them martial arts and, you know, self-defense, and that's okay. But as a parent, you want to identify what your why is for your child, which is interesting because the next question that you listed was, what's the greatest wish for your son? And that really helps you set the foundation for your why and how you're going to parent onto them. You know, so for me, next to the 3 H's for my child, you know, which is health, happiness, and honesty. You know, obviously that's my greatest wish for my son. I want him to be healthy. I want him to be happy, and I want him to be honest. And when I mean honest with who he is, right? Not honest with, you know, not trying to be somebody else to everybody else, but be the real himself. But my why for my son is I want him to be impactful. Whatever he does in his life, I want it to make an impact. If there is the greatest wish I can wish for Van, is that he has some type of impact on this world. And knowing that that is my why, it carries over now to how I parent him and the things that I do and how I nurture him. And, you know, you said your husband, you know, we get very creative with how we play with our sons, because my why is there. And I don't look at parenting as a chore. I look at parenting as an opportunity to make a world a better place through my son, through the impacts that he can have on society and in the world. So if parents start to shift their mindset when they're hanging out with their kid on the weekend, we stayed home all day this weekend. As a matter of fact, we have Monday, Sunday, which Jill's actually on her way to pick up Van right now, half day of school. We're gonna go to the pool today and play, because we're going to be out of town this weekend. You know, we are intentionally parenting Van. We're intentionally looking at, like, even a post I made the other day where some parents just want to survive a bad situation or a bad moment with their child. You should, if you look at that as a teachable moment with your child, you know, like a temper tantrum. My son throws tantrums. Look, he looks perfect on social media, but let's be real. My son is passionate. He's got fire. And in restaurants, there are times where he'll throw a temper tantrum. Instead of me getting mad and bringing him out and yelling at him and making a scene or getting embarrassed, I use it as a teachable moment. How can I take his passion that he has right now and teach him how to control it in a chaotic environment like right now? You know, at home it's very different, but it's chaotic. There's people everywhere. There's people watching, you know, food, music, all that kind of stuff. Because of my why, it helps me calm myself down and go, okay, this is what I want my son to be. I want him to be impactful. I don't want to shame him. I want to parent him. This is a teachable moment for me versus a moment where I'm like, where's my parachute? How can I get out of here?
Where's my paddle? No, I'm just joking. So, you know, what's so funny about everything we're talking about? I mean, this is, like I said before, the parallel to what I teach in terms of a manager mindset and helping CEOs especially and people of leadership positions understand the exact mindset that you just shared, that the challenges that your team faces are opportunities for you to teach, opportunities for you to shape their mindset in a new way, instead of frustration or you know, defeat, or feeling just like sort of this like resentment towards your team for not getting something, or for not that we're throwing temper tantrums, but if you put it on the same, you know, you draw the same analogy, like a team member who doesn't get something right away, or who makes a mistake and who doesn't have the support of their leader or their coach to show them where they may have gone wrong, or give them a different path, or use it as an opportunity to learn. That's the same mindset that, you know, that I'm really hoping people will adopt in the management sense as well, is that whether you're parenting a child or you're leading a team, it's the same strategy, it's the same approach. And if we can, really filter our own opportunity as an experience of joy in that, because we all say, hey, we love being parents, we love being teachers, we love being managers or bosses, whatever it is. But then that moment of struggle comes up for us and we fail. And so that's a really important opportunity for us to grow and to say, hey, I could do two things. I could freak out because my child is throwing a temper tantrum in the middle of the restaurant and it's embarrassing. Same as a sort of a CEO. Okay, I could freak out because my employee forgot to add some very important numbers into the spreadsheet and now I'm down $5,000 for the month or whatever. Yeah. Or I could reframe the situation and really find an opportunity for both of us to grow. So I love that mindset. And I think it's so, like I said, so parallel.
It is parallel, because we've been bred to be comfortable and complacent, right? Where we don't like chaos. It's just people in general. So then when we're put on the spot with chaos, whether it's our child throwing a temper tantrum or our employee or team member making a huge mistake, how we respond usually is based on our mood, based on the environment, based on a lot of things, and which means that we're going to be very inconsistent. One of my parenting skills is consistency. And it is, no matter what your mood is in the environment that you're in, if you're very consistent in how you parent and in how you manage, that's the first step to fostering a successful culture, an environment that you're in. So I definitely love the parallels. And it's interesting because when I heard you speak at the first MABS event and you had your Sexy 7, and I was not that boss. Back then, I was a hard worker. I was a hustler. I was a grinder. Not as much now because I work smarter. But back then, I was very frustrated with my team members whenever they made a mistake because I was a perfectionist. It's like, why don't you see this like I see this? And your speech really resonated with me where you said, give them the reins, let them make the mistakes because that's how they're going to learn. Don't try to prevent them from making the mistakes and then freak out when they do. And it kind of seems like parents do the same thing, right? We wait for them to mess up and then we punish them for it, or it should be the opposite, which goes into the next question. It's funny how this conversation is really flowing very well because you said, what are some of the things that parents can do to raise happy, secure, and confident kids? And I wrote these parent skills, which is right now a workbook, but I want to turn it into a movement. And number one, things that parents can do to have happy kids is the level of connection you have with your child. And let me just say that again.
Your dog agrees.
It's going to get a little noisy in here. So, for example, when parents come to me and say, oh, my child didn't listen, I have to tell him 5 times to come to dinner. I'll ask them, how connected are you with your child at that moment? And they'll say, what do you mean? And I'll say, are you in the kitchen cooking and going, Van, time for dinner. Van, time for dinner. Van. You're not connected with them. Where connection is taking the 15 seconds to walk into Van's bedroom, putting your hand on his shoulder, looking him in the eyes and saying, hey, little buddy, time for dinner. He's going to listen, and he does, and comes right to dinner. It happens in the morning all the time. Jill's like, you want chocolate milk or apple juice? And he's on his iPad. She's like yelling at him. I'll go over and tap him, hey, buddy, chocolate milk or apple juice? And you're happily like, I want apple juice today.
Right.
So I'm happy kid means not constantly having to scold. Now, don't get me wrong if you're listening. Yes, you should only have to say something once to get your child to listen. But the more connected you are to your child, I can tell Van, go do this, go put that away, and he listens to me because we have this really strong connection. So to raise a happy kid, the first thing is
I don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but just real quick on that point, it's funny how hypocritical we are with our kids about things like that. Like I should only have to tell them once, when in fact there are moments in my life where I have to be told 3, 4, 5 times because I forget or because I'm distracted or because, so have a little like empathy towards like the humanness of your child and the fact that they're just learning and that, life is not always about what you want. Sometimes it's about what they want. So, just having that sort of, I don't know, I just always think it's fascinating how we're very hypocritical of our children when we as adults don't always model the same behavior we ask. So
Sure. And that's something that you got to self-reflect on yourself. How hypocritical are you and what can you do to recover from that hypocrisy and work to be a better version of yourself so that you can help your child become a better version of themselves. So then, you know, next time you're with your child or even your team member, if you're watching this for management purposes, you know, what's the level of connection you have with that individual when you're trying to get them to learn from the lesson? You know, another example is if my son is throwing a temper tantrum, the first thing I want to do is I pick him up and I hug him and I give him that connection and let him know, look, buddy, I'm here for you. Only when he's connected to me can he listen to me. And not saying you have to hug your team members, because that would lead to all kinds of problems. But your level of connection as far as a relationship goes, when you're talking to your team members, if you're connected with them, they're going to be more receptive to what you say. And that makes happier team members. The second question is, how do you raise a secure child? Well, that's just being patient with your child, just like you need to be patient with your team members. To build a child that has a lot of security means that when they make a mistake, if they make a mistake and you flip out and you're going to a rage and you punish them or you take away their toys, that gives them anxiety and that makes them very insecure. And maybe they didn't realize that they made a mistake, or maybe they made the mistake because their downstairs brain overtook their upstairs brain in that moment, and then you flip out. It's going to leave them on edge. So if you want to raise a secure child, you have to take a step back and be very patient when they make those mistakes and think for a second, why did he do it? How do I want to fix this? And then what do I do to actually fix it? And if you can ask those questions, and that's not from me, that's from Daniel Siegel and No Drama Discipline, that book, the what, the how, and the why. If you're patient when they make those mistakes, you know, if Van knocks over chocolate milk, if I patiently go, why did he do that? Is he tired? Is he hungry? Is he grumpy? Did he do it to be honorary? And then what lesson do I want to teach him about not spilling chocolate milk? And then, you know, how's the best way to go about teaching them that lesson? That's how you build secure children. So it just that extra little second, if you're patient and intentional with your parenting, that's how you raise a child who's extremely secure.
And also the last unemotional. So just to dab in, like being non-reactive and unemotional in those moments, because that's a big lesson for management as well, and for parents, is like you want to lean into your own emotion in the moment. It's like, fuck, he knocked over the chocolate milk. I don't know if you can swear on here. I'm sorry. I'm from New York, I swear. But it's that moment of like really wanting to react, and instead it's taking a step back and looking at it and taking ourselves out of it. It's not about us in that moment. It's the same with leading a team. It's very easy to react in your emotion. And what you were saying before about kids not getting the message when there's no connection, the same is true for adults. It's like if you're so upset and angry and the tone in which you're trying to deliver the message is very reactive or very hostile or aggressive, no one's hearing what you have to say. No one's getting the lesson. No one's connecting with what you have to say. It's all about the approach. So removing the emotion and just being able to be that steady, calm, you know, sort of
patient,
reflective, patient, and responding. So I think that's huge.
Yeah, patience. There's so many times as a not just as a parent, but like as a boss, where I would, the minute I found out one of my team members made a mistake, I'm typing out a text message and then I read it like 5 times. I'm like, yeah, no, okay, and then delete it. That's okay. You can do that, right? That's even with your spouse and your relationship. You know, 100%. You can write it out and then delete it. You know, I have no idea how many fake emails or faux emails I've written, text messages, and then I deleted them afterwards.
Same.
But I had the patience not to send it. You know, the final question you asked is what kind of tips do you have for parents that are to raise a happy, secure, and confident kid? Confidence comes with them believing in themselves. And the problem is we as parents, as I mentioned, we wait for them to make mistakes before we teach them a lesson. And one of my parenting skills, parenting skill number 4, is called prompting. And prompting is basically setting him up for success and catching him when he's doing all the right things versus just waiting until he makes mistakes. So when Van gets up and he puts his bowl in the kitchen, I'm not patronizing him. I'm like, I like how you did that without me asking you. And or hey Van, let's see if you can pick up your plate and put it in the kitchen before I count to 3. So I'm setting him up to follow directions and then praising him on that. That's how do you build confidence? We do the same thing in martial arts classes. You know, people will say, I'll read a lot of posts like, how do you punish a kid who doesn't sit still in class? And in my mindset is different. It's how do I get the kid to sit still by building up their confidence? So for example, you have a kid that spins around in class. Let's say his name's Johnny, because everybody uses Johnny. Must be from the Karate Kid or something like that. You know,
I know.
the bad kid, right? Johnny spins around in class all the time. You know, the theory X way is, Johnny, if you don't stop spinning, you're going to get push-ups. The theory Y way is, okay, guys, when I count to 5, I want everybody to sit, legs crossed, hands on their knees, and let's see if Johnny, or who can beat Johnny. Let's see who can sit better than Johnny. Johnny, don't let everybody beat you. Let's see you be the fastest. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, you see how fast Johnny was? So now I'm rewiring his brain to think when I sit still, this means good. I'm stimulating the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, the endorphins in his brain, focusing on the positive feel-good chemicals to get them to sit good, versus the opposite, where if I say, if you don't sit still and you get push-ups, now all of a sudden cortisol is being released in the brain. And so that builds less confidence. So now every time he's sitting still, he's associating it to being threatened, and it doesn't feel good. So if I want to raise a confident child, I want to catch him doing things the right way, compliment him, and build those positive chemicals versus threatening him or those negative chemicals come out, because that's what lack of confidence is. Lack of confidence is lack of serotonin. You know, when you think about it, people who are depressed, they're prescribed with medication that helps boost their serotonin. This is in the 12 Laws of Power, that it was, or 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. In the first chapter, he talks about lobsters, and the lobsters that have high level of serotonin are the most dominant ones. And the same thing with people. The most confident people have high levels of serotonin, and it comes from the parent, or it comes from the boss, it comes from the leader. How can you associate doing the right thing with feeling good versus associate doing the right thing with feeling like, if I don't do it right, then I'm going to get punished, held accountable, fired, lose my job, push-ups, you know, grounded.
There's a huge,
you know, all those
initially there's a huge fear to try for people. And so if they don't feel like they're in an environment that's safe, whether it's a parent or a coach or a teacher, where they can actually go through the motions of trying, whether it's failing or succeeding, that whole like initial mindset for them is very scary in the beginning, and seeing themselves overcome that and seeing themselves get to that point at the end where they say, well, that wasn't so bad, and having that support system that nurtures that for people. I mean, practice is a huge component of feeling successful. So seeing yourself go through it over and over again and getting to the end point, I think is also equally important in that context of providing that space where you're not going to be shamed, which is a huge issue for a lot of people, is this deep sense of shame. Sorry, there's some sort of truck going by.
I can't hear it, so you're good.
Okay. But yeah, so whether they're small children or employees, or just in, like you mentioned, in a significant other relationship, like sometimes we're afraid to even get to the point of trying. And having that nurturing environment is huge.
Well, so it's interesting how this conversation is flowing to the next one, because the final question that we wanted to discuss is talking about, we're in a male-dominated industry. There's not a lot of female speakers and not a lot of female leaders, and the question is why? And for the females who are listening in the audience right now, or whether you're a boss to a female or your spouse that you're trying to inspire, one of the reasons why there aren't a lot of female leaders in our industry is because they lack confidence, because we're surrounded in a martial arts industry. You know, as martial artists, people call us masters. They say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. They bow to us. We can give out push-ups like we give out Halloween candy. And what that does is it fosters an ego. And some people mismanage that ego to the point where they control the people underneath them. They control their employees. They control their students. And there's a lot of top leaders in our industry, or there were a lot of top leaders in our industry who had that egotistical mindset of controlling all the people around them, particularly the women.
I know a few of those.
I played golf with David Alves on Friday. By the way, he said hello. And while we were playing, you know, we were talking about the state of the industry, and I was talking about some of my past experiences. And David said, you know what? It's interesting. He goes, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people who have been burned by other people in our industry, or, you know, they've had negative experiences or been screwed over. He goes, in an industry where we talk about character and integrity, why are there so many bad people at the top of our industry? And that's why we have a lot of female people who are just don't want to deal with being bullied, being criticized. You know, there's some groups that I removed myself from because I would make a post sharing thoughts and they would jump in to say why it's wrong. Couple brothers in one of the groups was making these posts about game-based learning and not playing games in class. And fortunately, I have thick skin, and I believe, and not just me, but I have scientific facts on why children learn best through play. But, you know, they try to bully other people because they want to be the ones at the top, and they don't want to help other people get up there. So that's one reason. Another reason is, you know, the number one fear of people is public speaking and being in the spotlight. We're afraid that we're going to be judged, and we're worried about how that affects who we are. And that's something that we need to practice at. Like you said, it's practice, 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 practice. You know, the first time I stepped on stage in front of hundreds of people, I was scared to death. Fortunately, being in the martial arts and testing for my black belt in front of people gave me that confidence. I'm sure you felt the same way, speaking in front of thousands of people, but you got to do it in order to learn how it feels so that you can then take the next steps to overcome it.
It's a muscle.
You know,
do you also think, Melody, like part of it is there's sort of this weird thing that's come up recently where it's almost like seen as a negative thing to be proud of yourself. I know earlier you actually made a comment like, I don't want to sound egotistical. And it's like, we have this very like skewed idea of what it means to be proud. And I think a lot of women hold back who they are and why they're so powerful and sharing their gifts because they're afraid, like you said, of being judged. And for other, maybe especially women, will look at that and say, wow, they're very egotistical. They're very boastful. They're very cocky. And I think if you back up your pride and you back up your confidence with, you know, you walk the walk type of thing and you're a good person and you show people who you are, I think we need to encourage women to brag more, to be okay with telling people who they are and what they do and why they're so amazing. And also to look for that in other women and say, hey, the reason I admire Melody Schumann so much is because she is this amazing, powerful woman who's not afraid to say so. And I want to be like that. And it's okay for me to acknowledge her value and her power and her beauty and all of that. And also okay for me to acknowledge my own. And I just think there's a lot of fear surrounding becoming too boastful as a woman. What are your thoughts on that?
You just called me out. And I love it. That was
only a little bit, but
what you just did there was absolutely amazing because I do hold back on sharing the success and a lot of things because, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. And there are some groups that, you know, I stay away from because I feel like they're going to take me the wrong way, and some of them do. But you're right. I'm holding myself back from getting to that next level unless I can overcome the mindset of bragging about myself. I think that that's powerful for not just women, but for people in general, but particularly women. You got to get out there. You got to brag about your success and victories and empower yourself. I keep going back to Jordan Peterson because that's the book I'm reading right now, but that's chapter number 1 is stand straight with your shoulders back. As that's the number one the number one rule of life is to stand like this. And you just hit the nail on the head talking about that's what we need to do more. We need to rise up more. We need to have our shoulders back. I think it leads into like a really good 21-day challenge or something that you and I can do where we can take, you know, we can start with women just because, you know, it's a good niche area, but, you know, to work with them for 21 days and after 21 days, transform them into these confident women. Because when I'm listening to you talk about this, I remember watching you walk on stage at MAPS that first year, dressed very classy, and you came right out so well-spoken, so confident. And I was like, yes, this is awesome. I pulled my seat up, and it didn't matter what you would say. I was going to do whatever you said because I fed off of your confidence and your energy. And man, imagine if more women did that, if they did it with their job, and if they don't even have a job, if they did it with their spouse, if they had more confidence with their spouse, if they had more confidence with their friends when they go out. I'm gonna guess, but tell me if I'm right or wrong here, that probably 8 out of every 10 women probably have anxiety when they go to dinner with their friends or any kind of dinner party or meeting, and they have these insecurities of, do I look this, am I dressed okay? Are they going to judge me? And wondering what people are going to think about them. You know, that's one thing that I love about my beautiful wife, is that, you know, she owns the room. When we go to a restaurant, I know not to sit down. I don't sit down yet because I know that she's going to look around and find the best table with the best environment. She's right there laughing at me. It's true though.
Hi, June.
She's going to be like, we'll sit down at the table, and she'll go, no, you know what? I want to go over there. And I'm like, humble, going, I don't want to tell the waitress and the server to move us over there. They sat all of our stuff down. No, Joe will go right over there and go, sorry,
oh my gosh,
sit over there.
Too funny. Chris is the same way. I appreciate that about him so much. I'm like, babe, just take charge. You got this.
And why more people don't have that confidence? I mean, we know why. But, you know, what can we do to help people have that level of confidence in themselves? I mean, imagine what the world will be like 5 years from now if we flipped the switch today and everybody was deployed with all the confidence that they needed to reach that next level in their life, to become a better version of themselves. The world would change, and it would probably take less than 5 years.
And also, like, really being okay with other women and sharing the power that we have together. Like, it's very easy to be intimidated by women who have that confidence, but the amount of change collectively that we can sort of cultivate together, as opposed to trying to be the best or be the most confident or the most, you know, knowledgeable. Like, Melody, you are so smart and brilliant, and you just have such a way with your mentality to actually apply to the actions of your life. It's so admirable, and it's very easy, I'm sure, for other women to say, well, I'll never be as good as her. But it's not about being Melody. It's about being your own version of yourself in the best way possible. And having women in my life that support that mindset, that don't try to shame me or that make me feel uncomfortable about being my best self, is equally important. And I think that you and I together can provide that type of support, that type of tribe for other women who are watching this, that really want to be something, you know, more, something greater, want to speak out more, want to, you know, have this desire deep within to be a more, I guess, bragging person, even though, you know, it sounds, bragging is such like a weird word to say, but just like a proud person.
I love it though. I love it.
I'm having people around you that say, I admire that about you, and that's okay. I don't have to be like you to still be amazing in my own right.
That's not, I mean, I'm right. I'm taking notes. I'm getting a free consult therapy lesson with you right now, and the audience as well. But the own version of yourself. So this is why it resonates with me, because as I mentioned, when you came on stage, and of course you had a skirt on, and you'll never see me wear a skirt. It's just not my style. You know, I'm in black V-necks and jeans and Converse all the time. You know, I have like 20 black V-necks in my closet.
Which is like your signature look, and I love
exactly.
it. I could never pull that off.
Exactly. When I saw you get up on stage and be confident in your mannerisms, the first thing that came to my mind was not to mock you and to try to be like you or be better than you. It was to be inspired by the fact that you overcame whatever anxieties you had before you got on stage. And to rise above those and realize that, yeah, this is intimidating to be on stage in front of all these people, but I got this, and to stick strong with my knowledge and to believe in myself. And it was inspiring for me. So yeah, when I got on stage, it was very different mannerisms and very different personalities. So in other words, I wasn't trying to be you. I was trying to be the best version of myself. So I love it.
I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to speak on stage with Melody Schumann. I mean, her resume is like, who am I? I'm like this, you know, I had never spoke in that type of setting before. So I had the same decision, and it really is a decision. It's, you get to that point where you're like, I could either shoot this girl dirty looks because, you know, here she is all like, or I can listen to what she has to say. And I think both of us are, because of our experience in martial arts and because of our experience as women in martial arts, we are able to get to that point and make the decision to say, what does this person have to teach me? how can I learn? How can I take all of the amazing things that they are and use them to my advantage to make myself a happier and more confident and secure person? So I think I felt the same way, girl. I was like, oh man, I got to do this with the lineup of, you know. So yeah, I mean, of course, when people compare us, people say, hey, those are the two female speakers who are speaking on stage. We are not comparable. I mean, me and you are as different as
but there needs to be
apples
more.
and oranges.
There needs to be more. You know, that was the final discussion point was, why aren't there any more females, and what can we do? You know, there's so many topics that females can talk about in our martial arts industry. They're not being addressed at all these events. There's not enough talk about fitness and exercising and what type of you know, workouts can you do at home to stay fit, or even just the chemical benefits. You know, I did kickboxing this morning, and on my drive home, which was an hour before this meeting, the endorphins that I was feeling, I was just so pumped to get back and do this. That's why I was probably like high level when we first jumped onto this Facebook Live thing. You know, female fitness leaders. How about nutrition in the martial arts industry? There's nobody talking about eating right and having good nutrition in our industry. You know, some people try to do it from a clinical level, but there's nobody dominating the nutrition arena in our industry. So there's like so many different areas where females, I'm sure they're out there, that females can rise up. How about legal stuff? You know, there's a lot of legal issues that we face as business owners, and there's nothing going on there. And I'm just spitballing right now, because when we start to share this video, if you make it to the end of this video and you're listening to this and you have experience with like the legal aspect or the fitness aspect and the nutritional aspect, these are all things that hopefully this inspires you to say, all right, I want to throw my hat in and give it a shot and see if I can build a message that's cohesive that people will listen to, and they'll not only apply in their business, but they get great results from. So that's
Absolutely.
Yes.
No, I agree. I think there's so many women of influence that just are waiting to be filled with the confidence and support, you know, that we can help with. And I'm happy to, you know, talk with anyone privately. I'm sure Melody is as well. If you don't want to, like, you know, if you're not sure, if you have questions, then let us know. But Melody, I'm so excited about all of the future things we're going to do together. I mean, we don't even know what they are yet. We're just like,
so we don't know. So you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this video a lot, and please, if you're listening to this, share it with your audience or share it with your friends, tag a friend, share it in the group. If you feel like the information here really sat well with you, and then message myself, message Kelly. How can we help you? Can we do like a retreat down here in St. Petersburg, Florida, where we do beachside training, yoga training, we do business training, parenting, you know,
amazing.
Do we do like a Facebook private group, like a 21-day challenge? You know, what could we do to help you or to inspire you that really would help you elevate your life to the next level? Shoot us messages about that, private message, email, however you want. You can post it in the comments section of this video. We'd love to hear. And again, of course, also share this video with your friends as well, because I'm going to share it, because this is just a great dialogue and a great conversation.
Yeah, so, and it's just the beginning.
Yes, and absolutely, because just you and I talking, it was amazing how everything just kind of flowed, and I could talk to you.
And Melody, even if nobody else wants to listen, I still want to chat with you, like on the weekly
basis. As I said, I just took a bunch of notes. But hey Van, you want to come here for a second?
Oh, I want to go get Ryder. Okay, let's have Van and Ryder say hi.
Okay, Van, come here, buddy. Hey Jill, will you bring Van over here? Oh, come here, buddy. No. Oh, okay.
He doesn't want to?
I'm gonna go over here just to say hi.
Ryder's eating, so I'm gonna bring the phone in here.
I'm gonna come in here. My son just got home from school, and we're gonna go to the Vinoy and go do cannonballs in the school. Say hi. Say hi, everybody. Oh, hi, Ryder. Look how cute you are, little buddy. Oh, he's always very happy. Hey.
All right. Yes. Well, I hope all
right.
of you have an amazing day.
Yes.
And Melody, I'll chat with you later on and we can figure out what our next step is. And thanks everybody for tuning in. So appreciative for all of you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye, Kelly.
Take care.